Okay, hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining the session today. My name is Carley Fain and I'm a Client Services Manager at Vision Critical. And today I want to talk to you about infographics and whether they're pretty, as in pretty good, or just pretty useless. So infographics seem to be a really hot trend this season. They're absolutely everywhere. When I was looking online, it was really clear just how popular they are. They're posted on Twitter, they're pinned on Pinterest, there's blogs that are slating and rating them. And it's not just online either, it's offline. So they're a regular feature in newspapers, in magazine articles, I see them in advertising when I'm on my commute to work. And also with my clients, I've noticed a real increase in them wanting to create them themselves, share them with their internal stakeholders, but also on their insight communities. So I've seen a lot of infographics, and like I said, they're everywhere. I can see them on my Twitter feed. There's mood boards created on Pinterest, and it's a real buzzword at the moment in the office. But the more I'm looking at them, the more I'm getting confused. And I find myself actually questioning whether I understand the concept and purpose of an infographic, and even sometimes felt a little bit perhaps disappointed or disheartened that they're not quite as good as I thought they would be. So I came across this infographic here, and it kind of summarised how I felt quite nicely. It seemed that I'd seen thousands of infographics. Perhaps it's a slight exaggeration to say that all of them added nothing but a graph and a bit of colour, but a good proportion of them just didn't really do it for me. And in my opinion, they didn't really serve the purpose of an infographic. So that sort of led me on to this question, really. Infographics, are they pretty or are they just pretty useless? And before I get on, I think it's quite important for me to just say that I'm aware of kind of two potential problems, if you like, with infographics. The first being that sometimes the data can be presented perhaps inaccurately, or it's a little bit misleading when you're using visuals and imagery, and there's a bit of a compromise there. But that's not what I'm going to focus on today. I'm actually going to focus on another issue, which I think is whether infographics are actually the right solution to use all the time. And as I've just been saying, it's a really hot trend. Everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon and use them. But I want to see whether we should be following this fashion or not. So unfortunately, as I was taking a look online, I came across a fair few infographics that, in my opinion, were pretty poor. And although that's disappointing, they do serve as good examples of what to avoid. And it demonstrates quite nicely the pretty useless infographic. Again, in my opinion. So here is the first in my Hall of Shame. So I just want you to, first of all, just take a quick look at this here and just ask yourself what you think the message of this infographic is. The title is Hair Today, Gone Tomorrow. So firstly, ignoring the fact that those pictures are actually of rabbits and not hares, my first thought was perhaps this is a play on words, it's about hair care products, or maybe it's about the hair or rabbit, whatever it is, life cycle. But actually, the subtitle is, Are Your Outlook Email Attachments Multiplying Out of Control? Now, I certainly wouldn't have guessed that. So I think it's quite clear that the message isn't clear. They're really clutching at straws, trying to link this rabbit and hare imagery to multiplying email attachments. And that got me thinking, so what is the purpose of this? Who's actually going to be interested in this topic? They're sharing four not particularly mind-blowing or interesting statistics, and I felt that it probably just could have been shared a lot more simply and effectively, and avoided all the effort of creating this infographic. And I also wondered, how are they actually going to share it? Are they going to do it via an email attachment? I wasn't sure. And then the second on my hit list is this one here, and this one's about Pinterest and whether it's music to the ears of social media marketeers. And the main reason this made my Hall of Shame is because I felt it just lacked creativity. Pinterest is obviously supposed to be very visual. You pin your pictures and your images, you create these mood boards, and this infographic is far from being visual. We've got this long list here of message cards, which it doesn't really give the reader any choice as to where or how they read it. It's just pretty lengthy, it's lazy, and it doesn't make me want to read past the title. And I'm not really sure either where the benefits are of doing it in this way, because a bullet-pointed list on just a piece of A4 or via an email would have delivered the exact same impact and taken probably 1/10 of the time. So I didn't really feel that any value had been added by displaying these 10 points in this way. And if anything, I almost felt that some value had been lost because of the delivery and the lack of imagination. And as I was reading through, there were some interesting points, and I thought, why haven't they done it like this? They could have done it like this, and I found it quite frustrating and wanting to kind of take all these points and start again from scratch and make my own. And then this is the last on my shame list. So this one here is the new approach to search engine optimization. The first thing that struck me here was just the sheer length of it. If you look down the left-hand side, you can see just how long it is. And I thought, wow, if I printed this out, it's actually going to be the same height as me. And then I took a closer look, and I noticed this penguin image with a chainsaw. And I was like, I almost clicked off without looking any further. And it became quite apparent that this was once a PowerPoint deck. And someone's obviously just taken their slides and pasted it into this one long document, which just made it even less user-friendly and readable and less digestible. But I did take a little bit of time and had a read through. But after reading it, I still couldn't quite understand the relevance of this chainsawing penguin and panda and how that links to the topic of the infographic. And I personally felt it should have just stayed a PowerPoint presentation. And although infographics are the in thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's suitable for everything. So to avoid being completely negative, I have got an example of what I think a good infographic looks like. So this one here in my Hall of Fame is it's about increasing food portions and how this is leading to obesity and showing that over time. So it starts with the beginning, it sets the scene, it gives context, and at this point I can decide whether I want to read on or not. And I do want to read on because it's interesting. There isn't too much information, it's not very text heavy, the imagery is relevant, and it adds a lot of entertainment to it. We've then got the middle, and that's where the story begins to develop and we get a little bit more detail. And I didn't think they compromised on the message or the content to tell the story. And then finally we get to the end, and that's where we have a conclusion and some takeaway points. So in my opinion, it just ticked all of the boxes. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's simple, but it's still effective. And like all good stories, it has a nice beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. So there were three key things really that I believe should be considered before you even start creating your infographic. So the first of them is value. So first of all, is this the best option to take? Will creating the infographic add any value to your story or to your message? And if not, why are you doing it in this way? And if you don't have a valid answer to that, then don't do it. You've got to remember that obviously there's a cost, both time and money-wise. So ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth that time and money and effort that you're going to put into doing it? The second is purpose. So what's the purpose of your infographic? Why are you planning on spending these hours creating a visually engaging infographic about Outlook attachments? If no one's going to view it, there's no point. And how will they view it? Are you going to print it? Are you going to email it? All of these things need to be considered so that it won't just collect dust. And finally, your audience. Is it suitable for your audience? How will they receive it? And will they not only understand it, but they'll actually care as well. So they should know from the start, is this for me, is it not? And you've got to grab their attention and make sure that they care about it. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll open the floor to any questions anyone might have.